recently Quantigy, or what used to be Ampex, announced the end of magnetic tape sales in the U.S., and there's only one supplier left. Since you were at the forefront of digital audio sampling, playback, recording, and you did all that work in the context of magnetic tape recording, most of what we all heard in the public, came through that medium.
Transition.
You were the transition. I'm curious. What are your thoughts about what are your thoughts about today's signal path not having tape saturation as an option, or having to approximate it if that's a color somebody wants?
Well, each generation sort of forms the sound of their generation, and we talked earlier about you have your special set of plugins, which may not be the special set of plugins of someone who's 10, 12, and 13 years old today. They may be a whole nother set of plugins. But you like that audio quality of your plugins, and that person will like, it's the same thing. I remember all the wars we had with analog and digital, and I can prove it, or I can prove that this is better, that's better. And I think that's a moving target, and I think that the issue of tape or no tape, I think music, unfortunately, through the freeware that's out there and the piracy, is that the economics of the music industry are dramatically changing. And so I think with that happening the way it's happening, which I had foreseen back in the late 80s and early 90s when I talked to the head of labels, I used to ask them and say, what do you hear coming out of the Synclavier? Because you could hear a whole song finished by Sting. You could push the button and there's the whole song. And I used to say, what do you hear? And they would say, I hear music. I said, well, what else do you hear? And they go, well, music, what else should I be hearing? I said, you're hearing software. It's nothing but software. And software can be digitized and put down a pipe. And they could never understand that model. And so, here we are where musicians now are making almost finished material in their bedrooms and can put it up on the internet and sell it direct. So I don't know if a lot of people are going to worry about how important. In fact, a lot of audio quality that I hear today is terrible compared to what you got in the early 80s, even on a CD, yet alone on analog. So I don't know, maybe we're dumbing down the world of listening, but a lot of my children who now buy some of the old CDs and listen to it on a CD player hear better audio than MP3. So, I mean, it's a moving target. It's all based on economics. And that's what drives it, not anything else.
99 out of 100 listeners of our interview right now are in fact going to be listening on probably OEM computer speakers about the size of a quarter, and we are absolutely part of this march into a lower standard. And I always want to get the impression of people who are there at important changes in the industry. I did want to ask you this: you talked about the beginning of CDs. It's my opinion that CDs took a long time to get to the point where they were mastered correctly and where we could actually take advantage of the format. I just want to know if you agreed with that, and if you had any thoughts about what are the new mastering horizons.
Well, I'm not an expert in mastering, but I think at that time, if you go back and there's two levels of the music industry. There were the engineers and the musicians who cared about quality. And there were the business people who cared, I can put out all my catalog again and make new money on my old product. And so depending on who you were, that was driving the CD industry. And because you could resell the same old product again and it would sound better, it took off. And of course, when the internet came, the whole paradigm changed again, not for the better of the music industry. So, as you look into the future, I do think that, I think that the whole audio quality thing is going to suffer because you don't have the same environment to market and make your return on investment back on music that they had in the old days when they had it captive. So the issue of mastering anything in the future, I guess it's only going to be as good as what you're going to listen to it on. And to some extent, audio systems are better in cars than anywhere else. And I think automobiles kind of represent, at least for my generation, that's where my critical listening is now, because it's a world of iPhones, iPods, cell phones, email. We're all pressed up against the limit of our daily lives, and passive listening in front of a very rich audio environment is kind of something of the past. So I think in a lot of ways, I've looked at some of the new designs in automobiles with 5.1 technology as a very interesting area to listen to music, and they sound pretty good. But you know, I'm a person who is a real nudge about audio, and I can hear the difference pretty dramatically when I listen to something, and I know when it's good and I know when it's not good, but I'll listen to it anyway because I can get beyond the bits and the bytes and, you know, the dB level and all that stuff that people get all hung up about.
Well, this particular, the low-resolution version of this particular interview won't have any hi-hat cymbal in it, so we won't hear that MP3 swooshiness.
Right.